You know the feeling. You're driving along and then boom, there it is. That check engine light glowing on your dashboard, just staring at you. But what if you could turn that moment of dread into a moment of, okay, I know what this is. Today, we're going to do just that. We're demystifying one very specific, very common code, P0201. So you've plugged in your trusty scanner and it spits out P0201. Maybe your car's running a little rough and you're wondering, is this a huge deal, a major headache, or is it something I can actually figure out? Well, you're in the right place. We are about to walk through exactly what that code means, how to find the problem, and what you can do about it. All right, first things first. Let's translate this from mechanic speak into plain English. What is your car's computer actually trying to tell you with this code? P0201 means injector circuit malfunction for cylinder number 1. Now, the most important word there, the one you really got to focus on, is circuit. The computer isn't saying the injector is clogged or dirty, it's saying it has found an electrical problem. And the logic is super simple. P0202 would be for cylinder 2, P0203 for cylinder 3, you get the idea. So our investigation starts with cylinder 1. Here's the best way to think about it. Imagine a simple lamp. For that lamp to work, you need a good light bulb, a switch that works, and wiring in the wall that isn't broken. Your car's computer is like you flipping the switch and seeing the light is out. It knows there's a problem, but it can't tell you why. Is the bulb burnt out? Is the switch broken? Or is the wire in the wall damaged? Our job is to be the electrician and figure out which one it is. So how does this little electrical problem actually show up when you're driving? I mean, this isn't just a code on a screen, right? It's something you can literally feel and hear. Well, think about it. If the injector for cylinder 1 isn't firing, that cylinder isn't getting any fuel. Your engine is basically trying to run with one arm tied behind its back. This causes that classic engine misfire, that shaky, rough feeling when you're stopped at a light. You'll definitely feel a loss of power when you hit the gas. Sometimes it can get bad enough that the car is really hard to start. You might even smell raw, unburnt fuel coming out of the exhaust. And of course, your check engine light will be on, and you'll probably see a P0301 misfire code right alongside it. Okay, so we know it's an electrical issue, and we know how it feels. This is where we get to put on our detective hats, because this whole thing is basically an electrical detective story with two main suspects. The problem almost always, and I mean almost always, boils down to one of two things. It's either the component itself, the fuel injector has an internal electrical failure, or it's the connection. There's a break, a short, or some nasty corrosion in the wiring that runs from the computer to that injector. It's the bulb or the wire. That's it. So, how do we hunt down the real culprit? How do we prove if it's the component or the connection? Let's lay out a simple, methodical plan to pinpoint exactly where the fault is. We can break this whole diagnostic process down into 3 really logical steps. We're going to start with the easiest one first, the visual inspection. Then we'll move on to 2 super simple electrical tests, the Noid light test and the resistance test. Let's walk through them. Okay, step 1. Before you grab a single tool, just use your eyes. Find the fuel injector for cylinder 1. If you're not sure where it is, a quick search for your engine model will show you. Now look really closely at the electrical connector and the wires leading to it. Is anything loose? Does it look green and corroded? Do you see any obvious breaks, or maybe a spot where a wire has been rubbing against something sharp? You would be amazed how often the problem is just sitting there right in plain sight. If your eyes don't find the smoking gun, it's time for step 2, the Noid light. This is a fantastic, super cheap little diagnostic tool every DIYer should have. You just unplug the electrical connector from the fuel injector and plug the Noid light in its place. Its only job is to blink and tell you if the computer is sending the electrical pulse to fire the injector. Reading the results is as simple as it gets. When you have someone crank the engine, one of 2 things is going to happen. If that Noid light flashes, that is fantastic news. It means the computer is sending the signal and the wiring is good. The problem has to be the fuel injector itself. But if the light does not flash, that tells you the injector isn't even getting the message to fire. The problem is somewhere upstream, in the wiring, or in very rare cases, the computer. And that brings us to our 3rd and final test, which really confirms the health of the injector directly. Using a basic multimeter set to measure resistance, that's the little horseshoe-shaped symbol for ohms, you can test the electrical coil right inside the fuel injector. This tells you, with certainty, if the injector is electrically good or bad. So what are you looking for? With the injector still unplugged, you'll just touch your multimeter probes to the 2 little electrical pins on the injector. For most cars, a healthy fuel injector is going to have a resistance reading somewhere between 10 and 16 ohms. That's your target range.
Now, what does a bad reading look like? If your multimeter screen reads OL, which just stands for open line, or if the numbers just don't settle, that means the tiny wire coil inside the injector has physically broken. The circuit is open. There's no coming back from that. The injector is definitely bad and it needs to be replaced.
Okay, so all of this detective work builds up to the final satisfying part. We've gathered our clues, we've run our tests, and now we know exactly what we need to do to get the car running right again.
So let's just put it all together. It's a really clear cause and effect. If your resistance test failed, you replace the fuel injector. Simple. If you saw visible wire damage, or if that Noid light never flashed, you need to repair that section of the wiring harness. See? It's a straight path from diagnosis to done.
And hey, one last thing. This is a super important step, so don't skip it. Once you've replaced the part or fixed the wire, you have to use your scanner to clear the P0201 code from the computer's memory. Then take the car for a good, solid test drive. Make sure that rough idle is gone, the power feels right, and most importantly, that the check engine light stays off.
And there you have it. You've gone from a mysterious, frustrating light on your dash to a clear diagnosis. You understand the circuit, you know the symptoms, and you have a simple 3-step plan to find the fault. Now you have the knowledge to make that final call. Is this a repair you want to tackle yourself this weekend? Or do you now feel confident enough to call a professional and tell them exactly what's wrong? Either way, the power is in your hands.